Hello, students, and welcome to today's English class. We are going to start with from the point where we have left the story about the little girl. Let us see what happens to Kezia after she unknowingly tore down the pages of her father's great speech for the Port Authority, and what were the consequences that she has to face. I'll kind of start with paragraph number 5. So laboriously, with a double cotton, the little girl stitched three sides, but what to fill it with? That was the question. The grandmother was out in the garden, and she wandered into mother's bedroom to look for scraps. On the bed table, she discovered a great many sheets of fine paper, gathered them up, tore them into tiny pieces, and stuffed her case, then sewed up the fourth side. So we see that Kezia's grandmother tells her that her father's birthday was approaching, so she should give her a surprise present. So, with lot of effort and difficulty, Kezia, using a double cotton, she stitched the three sides. But then the question was what she should fill it with. So, she wanted some advice, but the grandmother was out in the garden. So, she went by chance into her mother's bedroom to look for small pieces of cloth or paper to use as a stuffing. Now on the bed table she discovered that a great many sheets of fine paper were kept. So without taking permission, she gathered them up, she tore them into fine pieces and stuffed her case with it. And then she sewed up the fourth side. Moving on to the next paragraph, I'll take this paragraph complete. That night, there was a hue and cry in the house. Father's great speech for the Port Authority had been lost. Rooms were searched, servants questioned. Finally, mother came to Kezia's room. Kezia, I suppose you didn't see some papers on a table in our room. Oh, yes, she said. I tore them up for my surprise. So that night, a lot of hue and cry, a lot of angry protest was raised in the house. And why? Because we all know it, because Kezia's father's great speech for the Port Authority had been lost. So there was a frenetic search that was done in the house. Servants were questioned if they have seen the speech or the papers at least. And finally, to inquire of Kezia, her mother came to her room. She asked Kezia if she saw some papers on a table in their room, to which Kezia responded that yes, she had, and in fact, she tore them up for her surprise. The mother was horrified. She screamed at what she had done and ordered Kezia to move right away to the dining room. We're moving to the next paragraph, paragraph number 6. I'll take it from here to here. Okay, just give me a moment. Right. And she was dragged down to where father was, pacing to and fro, hands behind his back. Well, he said sharply. Mother explained. He stopped and stared at the child. Did you do that? No, 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 she whispered. Mother, go up to her room and fetch down the damned thing. See that the child's put to bed this instant. So poor Kezia was dragged down to where her father was, pacing to and fro with his hands behind his back. He asked Kezia's mother what had happened, and Kezia's mother provided an explanation as to what Kezia had done unknowingly. So Kezia's father, he stopped and he angrily stared at Kezia and asked uh, her if she did that. And Kezia was horrified beyond her wits. She did not know how to kind of answer this question. And she answered in negative. So father asked Kezia's mother to go up to her room and fetch down something and asked that the child should be put to bed this instant, that very moment. Let us see what happens in the 7th paragraph, which starts from here till here. Crying too much to explain, she lay in the shadowed room, watching the evening light make a sad little pattern on the floor. Then father came into the room with a ruler in his hands. I'm going to beat you for this, he said. Oh, no, no, she screamed, hiding under the bedclothes. He pulled them aside. Sit up, he ordered, and hold out your hands. You must be taught once and for all not to touch what does not belong to you. But it was for your birthday. So Kezia tried to explain. She tried hard to tell her father what she was trying to do. And she was explaining her father that she did not do it on purpose. And then Kezia's father, he went up to the room and came in with a ruler in his hand and told Kezia that he was going to give her physical uh, punishment. He's going to beat her, right? Should I say corporal punishment? That's the right word, corporal punishment. He said that he was going to give her a corporal punishment so that to teach her a lesson that she should not touch anything that does not belong to her. Because if she is not punished for her mistake and she is let scot-free or she is allowed to go unpunished, then maybe Kezia may do this again. But once she's punished for this thing, she might remember what she had done and never attempt to do it again. So he beat Kezia up. She got a lot of beating on her hands. Down came the ruler on her little pink palms, and she got a beating from her father. Moving on to paragraph number 8. Hours later, when grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and rocked her in the rocking chair, the child clung to her soft body. What did God make fathers for? She sobbed. Here's a clean hanky, darling. Blow your nose. Go to sleep, pet. You'll forget all about it in the morning. I tried to explain to father, but he was too upset to listen tonight. Well, after a lot of hours, you know what, Kezia was with her grandmother. And grandmother had wrapped her in a shawl and they were sitting on a rocking chair. And Kezia had clung herself to her grandmother's body. She asked, while she was sobbing, Kezia asked her grandmother a question. Why did God make fathers for? What is the reason that God made fathers? To scare a child? To beat a child? To terrify a child? Is that the reason why God created fathers for? So Kezia was kind of upset with the kind of beating that she got. And Kezia's grandmother tried to comfort her. She told her that take a hanky, blow your nose because you're suffering from cold, go and rest, and probably by the time it's morning, you will forget completely about it. And then grandmother told Kezia that she tried explaining the situation to, uh, to her father, but he was very upset to listen to what she was telling. Now, I guess you remember, children, that it was grandmother's advice. She asked Kezia to make a gift, a surprise gift for her father. And if you all remember, she also provided her the cloth and asked her to make a pincushion. So she was simply working on the advice. All right. Moving on, but the child never forgot. Next time she saw him, she quickly put both hands behind her back and a red color flew into her cheeks. So Kezia did not forget it. She did not forget the beating that she got from her father. So the next time when she saw her father, she quickly put both her hands behind her back and she would turn embarrassed. Her cheeks would become red with embarrassment because she remembered the beating she got from her father. Moving on to the next paragraph. Now, this is important. Okay. The McDonalds lived next door. They had 5 children. Looking through a gap in the fence, the little girl saw them playing tag in the evening. The father with the baby, Mao, on his shoulders. Two little girls hanging on his coat pockets ran round and round the flower beds, shaking with laughter. Once she saw the boys turn the hose on him, and he cried to catch them laughing all the time. Now, this is a comparison. The McDonald's were the neighbors of Kezia, and they lived next door. And the McDonald's had 5 children. And looking through a gap in the fence, Kezia saw them playing tag. Tag is a children's game for catching one another. And they were playing in the evening. The father he was holding the baby Mao on his shoulders. And the two girls were hanging onto his coat pockets. They ran round and round the flower beds and they were laughing and then they were having great time. They were having a lot of fun. So once she saw the boys turn the hose on him, and of course, Mr. McDonald tried to catch them, and he was laughing all the time. So Kezia saw Mr. McDonald just the opposite of her father. Mr. McDonald was a fun-loving father. He played with his children, he spent time with his children, and looks like that his children were not scared of his presence, like Kezia was scared of her father. And seeing them enjoy playing with their father, Kezia felt upset. And then she concluded that maybe there were different kinds of fathers. The fun-loving fathers, the angry fathers, the domineering fathers, the fathers who help their children. So maybe there are different kinds of fathers. That's what Kezia concluded. Remember the question she asked from a grandmother, that why does God make father for? And when she did not get the answer to her question, she tried finding answer herself. She looked Mr. McDonald playing with his children, and he was having great fun with them. And that's when Kezia concluded that maybe God created different kinds of fathers. Suddenly, one day, mother became ill and she and grandmother went to hospital. The little girl was left alone in the house with Alice, the cook. So now comes the turn of events. So one day, Kezia's mother took ill and she and grandmother went to hospital, meaning that Kezia's mother was so ill that she was hospitalized. So Kezia was left alone in the house with Alice, the cook. That was all right in the daytime, meaning Kezia had no problems because till the daytime, Alice was in the house. So there was someone at least in the house. Let's see what happens. This is the McDonald's family, and they're having fun, exactly. And this is something Kezia was desperately missing. Okay. But when Alice was putting her to bed, she grew suddenly afraid. So everything was fine till the daytime, but when Alice was putting her to bed, Kezia grew suddenly afraid. What'll I do if I have a nightmare? She asked. I often have nightmares, and then Granny takes me into her bed. I can't stay in the dark. It all gets whispery. You just go to sleep, child, said Alice, pulling off her socks. And don't you scream and wake your poor pa. So now we'd get to know the reason as to why Kezia was scared of going to bed at night all alone. She would get nightmares. And every time she got nightmares, she would rush to her granny's room, or granny would come and take her to her bed. And the reason is because Kezia is scared of dark. She cannot stay in the dark because it gets all whispery and she gets bad dreams. Maybe dreams of ghosts, maybe dreams of apparitions. So every time she get bad dreams, which is often, and she thinks that there is someone in the room, Then she's scared of darkness. So she starts to cry, and that's when grandmother comes, picks her up, and then takes her to her bed. So Alice was leaving. She was retiring for the day. She was leaving Kezia's house. So she instructed Kezia to go to sleep, and she should not scream and wake her poor father. Right? Father was really tired because of the day's work. Okay, moving on. We'll be looking at this paragraph. But the same old nightmare came, the butcher with a knife and a rope who came nearer and nearer, smiling that dreadful smile. While she could not move, could only stand still, crying out, "Grandma, Grandma!" She woke shivering to see father beside her, a candle in his hand. So, but the same old nightmare visited her. She had a bad dream again. And what did she see in her bad dream? She saw that there was a butcher with a knife and a rope, exactly like a nightmare, who was coming closer and closer, and he was smiling in a very dreadful manner. And Kezia felt that she could not move, she could not run, as if her legs were frozen. She could only stand still, and she was yelling and shouting and calling her grandma for help. She woke shivering. So she woke up calling for grandma. And when she woke up, she saw that her father was standing next to her bed with a candle in his hand. "What's the matter?" he said. "Oh, a butcher, a knife. I want Granny." He blew out the candle, bent down, and caught up the child in his arms, carrying her along the passage to the big bedroom. A newspaper was on the bed. A half-smoked cigar was near his reading lamp. He put away the paper, threw the cigar into the fireplace, then carefully tucked up the child. He lay down beside her, half asleep still, still with the butcher's smile all about her, it seemed. She crept close to him, snuggled her head under his arm, and held tightly to his shirt. Then the dark did not matter. She lay still. "Here, rub your feet against my legs and get them warm," said father. So father was standing next to. So when Kezia woke up from her nightmare, she found that her father was standing next to the bed, and he held a candle in his hand. He inquired Kezia what the matter was, and Kezia rambled that there was a butcher and a knight, and that she wanted Granny. Kezia's father understood that she had a horrible dream. So he blew out the candle, he bent down and caught Kezia up in his arms, and then he carried her along the passage into the big bedroom of his. In his bedroom, on the bed, a newspaper was on there, and a half-smoked cigar was near his reading lamp. So the father, he took away the paper, rather he put away the paper, and he threw the cigar into the fireplace to make space for Kezia on the bed. And then very carefully, he tucked up means covered up nicely in bed, Kezia, and he lay down beside her because Kezia's father knew that she was really scared. Half asleep still, so Kezia was still half asleep and still with a faint imagination of the butcher's smile all about her, she crept close to her father. And she moved into the warm, comfortable position close to her father, her head under his arm held tightly to his shirt. And when she was close to her father, all the dark apparitions, the butcher and the nightmare, it simply faded away. It did not matter at all. She lay there comfortably. Kezia's father asked her to rub her feet against his legs so that she can warm them. Moving on to paragraph number 12. This is the last paragraph of this story, The Little Girl. Tired out, he slept before the little girl. A funny feeling came over her. Poor father, not so big after all, with with no one to look after him. He was harder than grandmother, but it was a nice hardness. And every day he had to work and was too tired to be Mr. MacDonald. She had torn up all his beautiful writing. She stirred suddenly and sighed. What's the matter? Asked her father. Another dream? Oh, said the little girl. My head's on your heart. I can hear it going. What a big heart you have got, father dear. So, while should I say, before Kezia could sleep, because Kezia's father was really tired, he slept before Kezia could fall asleep. And Kezia, she was still half awake. And a funny feeling came over her. All of a sudden, the scary looking father, or not should I say the scary looking father, the father that Kezia was so scared of, that's the better way to say it. The father that Kezia was so scared of suddenly looked so poor too. She rather pitied her father. Why? Because ultimately he was not as big as she thought. Especially, there was no one to take care of her father. The grandmother and mother were both at the hospital. So father, who was used to ordering everyone so that his work was done, was not taking care of himself. So Kezia pities her father. And she found the firmness of her father's physique harder than grandmother. But then she felt that it was nice to be close to her father. And then she understands why her father could not spend time with her. Probably she understands that every day her father had to go to work and was too tired to be good Mr. MacDonald. And see what she had done to her father? She had torn up all his beautiful writing, the speech that he had written for the Port Authority. And he had to write it again. So father's anger was probably justified. And suddenly she stirred, she moved, and she sighed. And father woke up, maybe because she moved, and asked Kezia what the matter was. Was there another dream that was bothering her? That's when Kezia replied that no, she said that her head was on his heart, and she can hear it throbbing against his chest. She could hear the heartbeats of her father. And then, as if appreciating her father, she says that, my father dear, what a big heart you have got. And then she really feels comfortable and she understands her father in the end. So, children, Kezia could be anyone. I mean, you can also be Kezia. Boys can also be Kezia. I'm not changing the gender of boys here by saying that boys could be girls and girls could be boys. I'm simply saying that Kezia is a symbol of every boy and girl. See, see, children, the thing is that we always think that grass is greener on the other side. We always think that my friend's parents are better than my parents. And many a times we have reservations about our fathers. We think that our father, or rather, we think that rather any child thinks that my father is so strict. I mean, girls, I know there'll be many girls saying that, no, my father is very kind of cool with me. Right, maybe he's like Mr. McDonald's. He has time to spend with you. But there are many fathers who are chasing money, not for themselves. They're doing this so that they can ensure all the things for the family. All the fathers are doing a lot of hard work. They go out uh, in the world to make some money so that their families, their family can live comfortably. They arrange for all the money that is used for expenses. And many a times, the way our father behaves, we rather are not able to understand it. And that's fairly fine. This happens many a times. But then that's how it is. And when we grow up to be parents, when we grow up to be father or mother, then we probably realize uh, that what our father did was exactly right. There was nothing wrong with them. Maybe they were too tired. Maybe they did not have time because they was busy ensuring that we had comfortable life. So here in the story, Kezia initially has reservations about her father. Remember when she gets this beating from her father, she asks her grandmother, why does God make father for? And then when she looks at the McDonald's, her next door neighbors, and finding Mr. McDonald playing with uh, his children, she is kind of confused. She concludes that maybe God makes different kinds of fathers. But then, when an event happens in her life, her thought process about her father changes forever. She understands her father very well and why he behaved in that manner. And this incident is when Kezia's mother and grandmother, they are in the hospital because Kezia's mother is hospitalized. And there is no one to take care of the father. And then she realizes that her father is a simple human being. She pities her father rather. And she thinks that he is not so big after all. Remember, she thinks of him as a giant. And now her thought changes for her father. And she also feels that her father has to go out to work, and he was probably he was very tired to be Mr. McDonald. And the reason she got beating from her father was because she had torn up her papers on Port Authority, her speech on Port Authority, and that made her father angry. And now she probably understands that her father has a big heart. And that is the happy realization. If you look at the story, if you go up here, just here, right? Okay. Now, this is a very important line, right? I guess we get the answers to this question as well. This story about a little girl whose feelings for the father changed from fear to understanding. So earlier, she feared her father a lot, and now she has a fair understanding of her father. And maybe at some point in our life, we realize this thing. Okay. So this is the sum and substance of the story. Children, we have finished the story, and I'll be sending you across the question answers that you have to do in your registers. I'll be uploading it on the Google Classroom. Plus, there will be a Google worksheet as well that you have to do so that you can better analyze the learning outcome of this chapter. So just remember the main characters in the story. It is Kezia. She is the little girl. What is the story about? The story is about Kezia, who has fear of her father. She's really scared of her father, and then her feelings towards her father change from fear to understanding. Okay, and then of course we need to understand that why Kezia was scared of her father. Number one, how do we know that Kezia did not behave normally in her father's presence? The answer is that she stuttered in front of her father. Next, does she really suffer from stuttering? No, she does not. The only reason why she stutters in front of her father because she's trying to put words or place words perfectly. And that's where she struggles, and that's the reason she stutters. Is she happy when her father leaves for work? She's delighted because till that time she will have no fear because her father is not around. Does she often interact with her father? The answer is no. She does not interact with her father. Why? Because even on Sundays, her father seems to be sleeping in the afternoon. Then remember the advice that grandmother gave to please her father, the present on her upcoming birthday, and what horrible thing Kezia does. That is also one thing that you have to remember. She tears the Port Authority papers, the speech that father has to give. And then she is given a corporal punishment for that. And that's when her feelings for her father becomes kind of uh, very harsh. She starts to dislike her father. She starts to draw comparisons with Mr. McDonald. And then the twist in the story, when mother is hospitalized and she's left alone and she's scared of nightmares, and then her father comes to her rescue, and that is the point when she understands her father. So this is the sum and substance of the story, The Little Girl, written by uh, Catherine Mansfield. So thank you so much for being a part of this class. And as instructed, you will receive all the information on Google Classroom. So thank you again, and you all have a great day. Take care. Bye bye.